I need to fight for my joy or struggling with like my mental health and stuff, but I choose joy, and that's where the enemy attacks my joy, because he knows that there's power in that joy that the Lord gives, and that freedom that the Lord gives.
Welcome back to Life Explorer podcast. With me for this episode is Annabelle Jones, or Belle Jones, as she's known to us. Belle is married to our editor here, is Nathan, and you are a mental health practitioner.
Yeah.
Working for the NHS in Coventry, which you trained for in 2020.
Yeah, started 2020.
Yeah. So you qualified as a practitioner 8 months. So you've done another qualification and qualified in 2022, is that right? Or is that separate?
So I was a trainee from January 2020,
And
then I qualified. It was meant to be November 2020, but there was a thing called COVID that happened. So it ended up being June.
Okay, I understand
June
that.
20.
Okay, so that's when you actually did the qualification, the paper,
Yes.
a bit in 2022. Yeah, but you were also part of was it National Citizen Service?
Yes, I was a youth worker.
Leadership role there for a while.
So my first job post A-levels, I literally finished my A-level exams 3 days before, and then I was on a coach with 70 young people to Wales, being a youth worker. So it really was like a baptism of fire, and I did that for like 5 years over the summers.
Nice. So you got a first class degree, BSc in psychology, Coventry University.
Yeah.
That was 2019. You kept this quiet, but you're also credited as one of the composers for a Coventry Elim Kids song, Everywhere.
Where are you finding all these secrets from, Wes? Yes, I did help write a song and it got used for Coventry Elim Kids. So yeah, again, not many people know that. So you've dug that out from somewhere.
Yeah, we might get you to do a performance later for that as well.
Maybe.
You were vice president of the Christian Union whilst you were at university.
Yes, I was.
And you also, another thing you kept quiet is learning contemporary dance when you were 23, and you did a performance in 2020 as well.
I've done 2 dance shows now, actually, and we've got the next one in 2026.
Okay.
So I've been dancing. I decided just to start when I was 23, and now I've been dancing for years, which I really enjoy it.
And as you know, you have a passion for mental health that's based on your own experiences growing up, and you're deeply committed to supporting children and young people, empowering them to their full potential. You became a Christian at 18, baptized at 18?
Yes,
is it? Yeah.
6 months after.
As well, yeah. And you caught a travel bug after a trip to Amsterdam as well, right?
Yes.
That was a school trip, or?
It was a uni trip. So we had a module called Experiences in Psychology, and there was an option to go to Amsterdam. So I was like, why not? So I went to Amsterdam for a few days with uni.
Yeah,
which was
you
quite
get
cool.
to see Van Gogh the
Yes, the Van Gogh Museum and Anne Frank's house. That was really cool.
Yeah, cool. I've been there as well. Yeah, actually, we didn't go into Anne Frank's house, but I mean,
it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, we saw it from outside. Long queues. You also experienced a physical healing, wasn't it, related to your blood sugar?
Yeah.
At 18 as well, after giving your life to Christ. You'd been to the clinic, you've been diagnosed.
Yeah, diagnosed pre-diabetic.
Pre-diabetic.
And yes, I got prayed for at a youth conference.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went back, they were like, "Oh, your blood sugar's all normal now." So
that's great. Yeah, that's really good. So you're married to Nathan. You met him online. Christian Connection, was it? What
It was.
all the kids are doing these days. And you got married last year.
Yeah.
So congrats on the recent
you.
wedding. You born and raised in London near Heathrow.
Yeah.
Uh,
And behind a hospital.
Do you miss the sound of like planes going overhead?
I kind of do. It's kind of like white noise now, so it's like comforting. And also sirens in a weird way, because again, the hospital was literally, I could see into the hospital from my bedroom window. So hearing sirens and stuff as well, lots of noises.
I remember I spent some time in New York, and I remember the buzz of the city, and it was just the background noise. There's nothing like it.
I've gotten used to it now, but I sometimes do miss that like background noise.
Yeah. I can't say I don't know how somebody get used to planes going overhead like that, but I can imagine there's something of a comfort of being home there. But your parents were from Ghana.
Yes.
They immigrated to England in the 80s. So they kind of, their household was kind of very much Ghanaian.
Yeah.
Raised in sort of a bit of a hybrid culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have an older brother, a younger sister. And you had to share rooms growing up as well. You lived with your auntie and 3 cousins, is that right?
Yeah, we all lived together. 9 of us in a 3-bed house. I didn't have my own room because I went to university.
Yeah. And your parents were Christians, they were active in church leadership in London. And you've been back to Ghana, haven't you?
Yeah, many times.
Been traveled to Ghana, seen your family there and everything, right? Cool. Okay. Well, so did I miss anything else?
I feel like you know more about me than I do.
Well, we'll see. We'll get into it. We'll see. Let's find out a bit more about you. So, we did talk about the sound of planes, the feeling of home and comfort. If you could take, if I could take you to either Ghana or Heathrow's duty free, which one would you go to and why?
To either Ghana or Heathrow's duty free.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Probably Ghana. I love the snacks there. So I've been getting Nathan into lots of the snacks, plantain chips and katia burger. One of my favorite things is something called Cerelac, which is technically baby food, but it's really good. It's like a baby food porridge. So I've actually been having that recently for breakfast. And it's kind of like unlocked a memory from my childhood. So that, and then also like mangoes, coconut. I love tropical fruits. I definitely am a tropical fruit lover. Prefer that to an apple. Like apples are, but mangoes are amazing. So yeah.
What's one Ghanaian food that we don't have here that we should?
Groundnut soup and rice balls.
Groundnut soup.
Yes. So again, Nathan's not the biggest fan of it, although I'm getting him more into it because it is my favorite thing. So it's like a tomato soup, but you cook peanut butter into it, which I know sounds like ugh, but it is so good. And then you make rice into like a ball, and you pour the soup on top of it, and you
yeah.
I'm there.
That doesn't sound too bad.
It's good. Yeah. I need to learn how to make it. So apparently there's a saying in Ghana that you're ready to be a wife when you can make groundnut soup for your husband.
Right,
so,
okay.
Not quite been able to make it yet. So hopefully I'm still ready to be a wife, but I'm getting there.
Cool. You've got 50 first cousins.
Yes.
What's more intimidating, a family wedding, seating plan, or a work presentation?
That seating plan. that was just.
Does it trigger off like kind of rivalries and?
There were definite there's an expectation that everyone is invited because again, back home in Ghana, there's no such thing as a guest list. It's just like come. Anyone's welcome. People can come. So that's the culture my parents have had growing up. So they found when I was like, no, I need 180 names. I need exact names. They were like, wait, what? Why? They just found that really hard to translate. So yeah, the seating plan was a work of art, really. It was a lot. So I definitely found that quite stressful, but we got there and we got all the people that we wanted there. So it was really lovely.
Yeah. Very very big wedding that was.
Small
And lots of
compared to
people.
my family. One of my cousins had 400 people at his wedding, so
Was that here or was that
it was in the UK.
in the
Yeah.
UK as well? Oh wow! If yours and Nathan's story were turned into a Netflix rom-com, what would it be called, and who would play you?
I think we call it Too Much Talk About Broccoli, because the first video call we had, apparently I talked a lot about broccoli. I was really nervous. And I'd just been to Aldi and I'd gone through the middle aisle and I'd got some broccoli. And I was talking about how amazing broccoli is because it's like mini trees, and this is the sign for broccoli in sign language. I was learning sign language for a bit. So I was like telling him all about broccoli, and he was like, I don't really like broccoli. I was like, what do you mean you don't like broccoli? It's a mini tree. So, and apparently I put him off a little bit talking about broccoli.
I can't imagine why.
And apparently it was too much talk about broccoli. I thought it was an appropriate amount of talk about broccoli, but eventually we moved the topic on. So yeah.
Who would you play you?
So either, well, I was thinking of having it more as like an animated style thing. So again, we're quite quirky fun people. We love games, we love animation, we love playing, love bright colors. So if it was like an animated style, I'd have a voice actor of either Zendaya, because I love Zendaya, or Letitia Wright.
Spider-Man's girlfriend. I don't know who the one is. No.
She was Shuri in Black Panther.
Which requires more negotiating skills? Sharing a room, growing up, or deciding what to watch with your husband?
Deciding what to watch. Because sharing a room, we were set. I had my bed, my sister had her bed, my brother had his bed. And then when my brother got married and moved out, one of my cousins moved from downstairs to upstairs and took that bed. And then he got married and moved out. Then his brother moved from downstairs to upstairs and took that bed. And then he got married and moved out. And then his sister moved from upstairs to downstairs. And then I went to uni. So like we had our set. There wasn't any changing. Although I did used to sleep on the top bunk, but I like roll a lot when I sleep. I'm quite an active sleeper. Best way to describe it. So I kept falling from the top bunk to the floor. So my mum swapped me to the bottom bunk. So sometimes I try and negotiate with my sister to try and sleep on the top bunk again because I miss the power, but I'd end up falling.
So who normally wins in the debate of what to watch?
I feel like it's quite equal because if I'm not feeling something, I can I'm not too sure about that. And then he'll suggest something else. And again, if he's not feeling something, it's like, I'm not too sure about that as well. But usually we're thinking of the same thing that we want to watch. We call it one brain. We often like one brain each other. Like I want to watch Come Dine With Me. And he's like, I want to watch Come Dine With Me. So often it comes like we've agreed somehow. But if not, then we're able to negotiate and go through options or just find a random YouTube video if we really can't think of anything to watch or what's on regular TV. Judge Judy is our like backup default show.
Right. So unlimited budget for travel or unlimited budget for travel or unlimited budget for home decor. Which would you pick?
Travel any day, anytime. I'd love to see the world. I'd love to go to Sri Lanka. Again, I really want to get there one day. I'd love to go to Japan. My sister and lots of my cousins are actually going to Japan in October, but my bank account said no, sadly. I'd love to go there. So definitely travel and seeing the world, seeing different places. Yeah.
Yeah, I love travel. Well, on the theme of travel, really, why don't you just give us the rundown of your story? So you come from, well, you haven't come from Ghana, but starting Ghana, London, Coventry, Rugby. How did you get here? And did we miss anything out as well?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in London to my parents who are very much Ghanaian, very traditional Ghanaian parents, and they still are. They basically brought their Ghana culture with them to London and just kind of continued.
Just to pause and just ask the question, what's the main differences between the British and the Ghanaian culture? Like what are these?
Yeah, Ghanaian culture is way more collectivist, like it's way more community focused. So like decisions are made as the family are making a decision, the community are making a decision. There's like not quite like a hierarchy, but there's like levels of respect for people who are older than you. So my mum, even though they're all like in their 60s and 70s, she'll still call her older sister, oh, sister Joanna, sister, there's uncle this, brother that,
Right.
when they're referring to each other, just as a sign of respect, like, you know, auntie, uncle, sister, all those sort of things. And again, that's things that she instilled in me. So she wanted me to call my brother Edgar.
Oh,
But we were like, oh, sounds like we're in a monastery. We don't really like that, but that's what she does with her siblings. And then even my cousins that are like significantly older than me, like one of my oldest cousin, I think he's in his 60s. So like significantly older than me. I used to call him uncle, or call them cousin so and so and stuff. So very big on that like level of respect for the elders as well. That community kind of feeling is very strong. The family bond is very strong. The family are your unit. Like my mum would always say, you know, your family are everything. My sisters and my brothers, they are my friends. They are my close people. They are my people and stuff. So that's very much the culture there.
is that they get involved in decisions like where you were going to go to university or anything like that, or is that more of an individual thing?
They were involved. So, I was given a 2-hour radius around London. That's where I was allowed to go for university.
But you ended up in tell us the story then.
Coventry is still within that 2-hour radius of London.
Yes,
so,
true. Yes, I could.
So I was there because at first I was thinking, oh, I'll go to Edinburgh. My mum was like,
Really?
no. So, but again, I think it actually worked out being quite close. So like things like that, and then even thinking about careers and future and stuff like that. Like, not that they'd say you must be this and you have to do this, but again, they'd be involved in the conversations. Like, you know, we've noticed that you've got these skills, you're quite good at this, or this might be a good area for you and stuff like that. So yeah, they were very much involved in those things. And then even like GCSE subjects and stuff that I wanted to pick, they definitely encouraged me to pick subjects they felt that would be beneficial for a long-term career. Like they were very hot on education. Like my dad is quite a quiet man. He doesn't like speak much unless he has to, but he always had something to say about school. Like school was something that was a non-negotiable. If you felt like your grades were slipping and not paying attention, you know, there was none of this getting in trouble in school. Like my dad was having none of that. Like, you know, education is the key for the future, the key for your success. So they very much drummed that and developed a really strong work ethic in all my siblings as well. So I think the way I approach work and situations is very much based on how they brought up, and that brought me up in that sense as well. So yeah, I grew up eating Ghanaian food. My dad again doesn't really like, well, he's better now. So like he'll have fish and chips. I'll have fish and chips. They quite like that. Chinese takeaway. They quite like that. KFC, fried chicken. That's okay. They're not too keen on curry. Not a curry person. Not really keen on red meat as well. So I didn't eat a lot of red meat growing up. Like steaks and stuff like that. They're not into that. And if we did have a steak, it'd be well done. So sometimes when Nathan's having a steak, I just instinctively start mooing at him. Like it's mooing back at me and stuff like that. So food was a big part of growing up. My mum is such an amazing chef. She's so talented. She can cook for 200 people, no sweat. Like she can really bulk up. She's got pans that are ridiculously big, like she'll cook jollof rice in a big pot for the week and stuff. So food was a big thing. Lots of chicken. I didn't really like fish growing up, but fish is a big part of Ghanaian cuisine because Ghana is a coastal country, so lots of fish, like tilapia and stuff. I've grown to appreciate fish now as I've grown up and stuff, and it is a very beautiful thing to eat.
I think if you, I'm not into. I don't eat fish. Right? I've never really enjoyed fish. But I've found if you eat fish like somewhere where it's done really well and it's fresh from the water, it doesn't smell and it tastes like, you know. So yeah, I had fish in Greece a year ago, and
That was good.
And it was, when it was being served, it was part of the corporate dinner or whatever. So there's no menu choice. It was like we just went to a seafood restaurant. And I was like, oh. I always get a bit anxious. I'm in a seafood restaurant, they bring over these, fish and chips, and well, I'm not just gonna get chips, am I? So I got the fish. I was like, okay, well, I'll just give it a try. And I ate it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. It's like really nice, like chicken of the sea,
Yeah.
So I kind of I quite enjoyed that. So I think that makes a big difference. But
Yeah.
growing up here in the Midlands, where your fish and chips shops are the furthest from
Yeah.
the ocean,
Not the best to
Not
compare
not
from.
trying to
So,
disparage our fish and chip shops here in the Midlands, but just say it would
doesn't quite hit the spot.
not
Doesn't
for
quite hit
me,
the
not for
spot.
me anyway. So why Coventry?
So I quite liked the university course. Again, I took a lot of time researching into courses that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to study psychology. I knew that I was aiming for long term a mental health career. That's what I wanted to. So I wanted to study at university where I could get good hands on experience because I quite like more hands on practical stuff rather than just kind of reading a textbook. And Coventry had a really good module every year that you had to pick, which has I've lost the name of it, but it was all about increasing your employability. So you'd pick different things, and I liked that practical element. And they also had a placement year as part of the course. So you had a year out to work in some form of industry, get that experience, and go back in to finish your final year. So I was like, I really want to do a year in industry. That would be really good experience, building up my CV. So again, I've always had that like long term thinking plan. I'm quite good at seeing the end goal. I struggle to see how to get to the end goal, which I've recently discovered is part of being dyslexic. So I got diagnosed with dyslexia when I was in my second year of university, and I was like, oh, this all makes sense now. So I'm very good at seeing like the long-term goal, what I want to get to, the bigger
Right.
picture, but I can find the small details to get to the bigger picture quite overwhelming. But I knew the bigger picture, that's what I was going for as well. So always found psychology quite interesting even. I discovered psychology kind of accidentally in the sense where so I had a friend. I was really close friends with him, and over time he just started to change. Like he was really outgoing, really into his sports, like popular kid. Everyone loved him, but then he started withdrawing himself more and more, just completely changed, got really quiet, told me that he started hurting himself. And I was just Googling my friends, like something's happened to my friend, what's going on with my friend, I don't understand. And then I came across a website about depression in children and young people. So I was reading it, talked about how, when you're feeling depressed and low, you lose interest in things that you really care about. You find it hard to sleep. You can find it hard to eat. Your motivation goes, you maybe stop socializing with people. And as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's him. Like, this is my friend. I've never heard of such a thing before. Like, what's going on? And I was probably only like in year 7, in year 8. So between 11 to 13ish when I was kind of like Googling this stuff. And then as I was reading the website, it talked about like how therapy can be quite helpful and getting support for it. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to be that person that could help someone if they're struggling with them, like their mental health and what that and all that stuff is as well. And then I found out that my dad is actually a mental health nurse. So I knew he was a nurse, but I didn't really know what he did. So again, he talked a bit about, and how some people they're not well with their mind and they need more support and stuff. And I just found it really interesting. So I was like, great, I'm gonna go to med school and I'm gonna be a psychiatrist. And then I got my GCSE grades back and I was like, that's not gonna happen. I did not have the grades for med school, but I found out about something called a clinical psychologist and a therapist. I was like, I can do that. And to do that, I need a psychology degree that's accredited by the British Psychological Society. So again, I went on the website, I looked at all the courses that were accredited by them, and then that did that radius for 2 hours where I was allowed to go, went to visit them. So I went to visit Reading, Aston, and Coventry. Preferred Coventry out of them. So Coventry became my first choice. Essex was my second choice. So I might have ended up in Colchester. So what would have been like if I ended up in Colchester. And yeah, that's how I kind of ended up in Coventry. And it was a really good course. Like I really enjoyed the practical learning, the theory, experiences, work experience. I also got to be a research assistant as well for different lecturers. So all these things, like I just kind of threw myself at getting involved, which is actually how I got diagnosed with dyslexia, because the lecturer was doing her qualification in becoming a dyslexia assessor. So she was looking for people who struggled with reading and writing, but particularly people whose parents, who English wasn't their first language, so the parents wanted to see if there was like a connection between that. So I fit the category. And then through that, I got a free dyslexia assessment, and they are expensive. So that's been really good to have that. And because
Did you know you had it before?
I had a feeling, but because I did well academically, school didn't really believe me. So
you're almost too good. It's like, gosh, you're fine.
Literally, that's what they were like. You're fine, you're fine. And that can, again, from doing this, being part of this research, found that that's actually quite common for people, that people assume because you're dyslexic, you're stupid, but intelligence and dyslexia are two separate things, like completely different.
It's initially, that's the problem with the diagnosis, isn't it? Initially, it's a kid to struggle at school. So there's this idea that they're not so bright.
Yeah.
But it's actually because they're just struggling with reading. They don't even know. They don't even realize that they have a
processing. That's the main thing. I get so tired, my brain can get really tired and feel
so when you're talking about this, it seems to me it's not that because I understood dyslexia as you jumble up the words on the page or something like that.
That can be one presentation of that. So struggling with reading and writing and processing, that's the main thing, like processing information and stuff. So for some people, when they're reading, the words kind of get a bit jumbled. I don't have that for me, but it's more that when I'm reading, it doesn't go in. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It's like I've got the words, I've seen the words, I've read the words, but my brain has not connected what the words have said. And I know that can happen for some people's like daily anyway. We have moments where our brain's going to go blank, but that's kind of like constantly what it's like for me. So I find myself rereading the same sentence over and over again, and I'm just like, what? It's just not coming together. So processing that information, also your working memory. So remembering different bits of information, recalling different skills, sounding things out, which is where the reading difficulties come into it as well. Handwriting, my handwriting is better than it was, but it's still not amazing. My pen movement, my penmanship is not fantastic as well. So
describing me, but I'm left-handed. It's always been awful. But I've also had that. I struggled at university, at least the first time around, because I had the problem. It's like reading stuff. I would read it, and it just doesn't go in.
Yeah, it's like I can see the words.
I always found it was, but then I found it applied really to sort of academic language. I think I'm quite okay with, things that are sort of straight English.
Yeah.
The reading comprehension level, I always,
when
I want to understand something, I go to ChatGPT, just explain this like I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
And it works.
It's really helpful.
But it's really interesting you saying all that, because I definitely feel like there's some of the things you're mentioning I've experienced, but
and I think
mildly.
Something else that so part of after I got diagnosed, I got a disabled student allowance, which allowed me to get specific tutoring for people who are experts in dyslexia, assistive technology.
Right.
So I find it quite helpful to have things read out to me. So again, often when me and Nathan are doing our devotional, for example, I'll get him to read it out to me, or we'll listen to it read aloud, because I find that easier to process rather than reading it out and stuff. But they also said kind of with dyslexia, people tend to think more creatively about things, or have so they call it a dyslexic thinking style, because you've had to learn to adapt. So again, I did well in school, even though it was shattering. I was absolutely exhausted, because even though you're still doing well, the effort it took me to get that A was a lot more than someone else who wasn't got additional needs to get that A as well. But you learn ways to adapt and manage and overcome situations. So I end up thinking quite creatively. So I think I've been able to learn how to think quite quickly on my feet. And I think that's kind of part of that dyslexia. So it does have some strengths as well. And I think I've been learning to embrace the positive sides of it. People that dyslexic also tend to be quite person-centered, quite personable with other people, and have a really strong sense of justice, apparently. So definitely things I can see in myself, and I'm like, it's not fair, and that drives me to try and change things.
It's like having just a slightly different type of brain.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine like years and years and years ago, writing and reading wasn't as important as your survival skills. And I think the last couple hundred years, probably, especially in the Western world, we've focused on more on academic skills, more on reading and writing. That leaves some, perhaps that's where you've got some people who are much more practical
Definitely.
minded
Yeah,
and creative.
definitely.
Now they're sort of having to take that back seat, to people who are more academically minded, but they're useless when it comes to
Yeah, literally,
practical matters.
I definitely have. It's probably somebody mean to say, but I'm going to say anyway. I've seen some practitioners who they have the theory down. They know the theory behind cognitive behavioral therapy or counseling or stuff. They know the evidence behind it, the evidence-based research. That's great. But when you put them in front of a child to speak to, they don't know how to talk to that child. Like you need that practical skills as well. You can know the theory, you can know the knowledge, but you need to be able to apply it as well.
I come across that in my work scenario. This might be controversial, but since I think it's a more of a Christian podcast, I can get away with saying this. But I find with project managers in my role in my career, the more learned a project manager is, the more certifications they've done, the more useless they are as a project manager. The best project managers I had have been ones who are not certified, or just got a foundation.
Got the experience.
It's because they just know how to manage people and move people and make things happen. Whereas the ones who've gone and done all the practical theory and everything and done all the tests and everything, are completely useless at sort of getting things done.
It's a different skill set, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing it and being able to actually apply it in practice.
Yeah. So, between your psychology training and your Ghanaian upbringing, which do you think has helped you better in reading a crowded room?
To say my upbringing, like my experiences, I think I'm quite good at reading people because you kind of have to learn how to read people. Being a minority as well, like I'm used to being the only one in the room, one of few in the room and stuff. So I think from that hyper awareness, you get good at reading people and situations from that, as well. So I feel like more that experiences. I think when I tell people like I've done a psychology degree, they're like, "Oh, what am I thinking?" It's like you're not a mind reader, you're not a mind reader and stuff. I can get help, like it's again that theory behind people and stuff. But I think a lot of it is just from my general experience.
It helped you to put labels on things that you were already kind of thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And how do you think sharing space with a full house affected your own mental well-being and your ability to find quiet now?
Yeah, I think there was always something going on. Like there was always noise, which then I found quite comforting, that background noise. Like I could hear my cousins downstairs laughing, playing music, my sister, the TV going off in the background, the ambulances and the airplanes flying above. So that was like a sense of, like it felt like a community around me. So when I first moved to university and I lived by myself, lived in my own room by myself, it was that quietness that hit me first. I was like, oh gosh, it's really quiet. Like I can't hear people clanging in the kitchen and stuff. And I found that quite lonely as well. So I think I found that community quite nice. But then on the other hand, I also felt like I didn't have a lot of me time, a lot of like my own space. I didn't really know how to be by myself. So again, moving out, being in my own room by myself and stuff, living without my family, that was a really hard adjustment because I had to learn how to be by myself. Like I was never really by myself beforehand. So there was always someone there. I remember that my brother gave me a desk And he was like, this can be your space. This is yours. Like, so you can have that own space. And like, I really loved it and appreciated that. But it didn't last long being just my space. It became with the, became the laundry folding table after a while. So I like moved the laundry off and then like sit and do there. And then my sister would use a desk as well. And she had her desk too, but that also became the other laundry folding station and stuff. So I never really felt like I had like my quiet space time. I remember in primary school in a PSHE lesson, they talked about how it's important to kind of have that quiet regulation space. I mean, they didn't call it that, but that was basically what they were getting at. So like, finding a time, whether it's sitting on your bed or sitting in your wardrobe or whatnot and stuff. And I was like, there's literally nowhere I can go where I can just kind of sit by myself because there's always people around. And I was like, I can't really tell my sister to get out of our room because it's both of our spaces and stuff. And then things. So I think, yeah, I didn't really know how to be by myself, that element of independence. And I found that quite lonely and quite isolating. And I did really struggle with that, like stark reality as well. And I think also like just the massive culture shock going to university as well. Like I'm very glad and happy. And it was great that my parents sheltered me from a lot of nonsense that was out there in the world. Like I grew up on a council estate. There was a lot of not so nice stuff going around and stuff, a lot of dangerous things at times and things. Not saying that it was like like a back alley kind of gangster thing. It wasn't like that, but there definitely were some things that weren't too savory growing up in London and stuff. Like I remember the London riots, for example, just sitting watching on the news. Probably was in year 9.
Which ones though?
The ones it was around 2012. The ones around 2012.
Right.
Where
Was that started in Enfield? Was that where that started? There was a shooting or something.
yes, yeah, that one. Yeah, I remember looking at those ones and like seeing people like trash places, like what the heck is going on and stuff. Like, and I would have never had no business in like, enjoying that. So being sheltered from that, I think was good because there was things I didn't need to be exposed to. But then when I got to university, it was wild. Like I lived with a drug dealer. He wasn't very good. He kept getting caught by security. I was like you just need to think about these things. Like you can't pick up right outside the front door where there's like a camera. Come on, think about it a little bit and stuff. And like you'd hide things under his bed. So we'd have security coming in and out during searches. There was like a really wild party that one of my flatmates was in the cricket society. So there was like 18 cricket guys like just in the flat causing chaos. And then there was like a club around the corner as well. And then there was also a brothel down the street. So like going from being really like, yeah, and like prostitutes literally on the street corners. Yeah. Yeah. So going from a really sheltered like Christian house where like my parents they don't swear or anything, like they don't get drunk, they don't do those things, and then like moving into halls, which was absolutely crazy. Like that was a massive culture shock, and I really struggled. I did really struggle at first. I was like going home nearly every weekend and stuff because I just kind of missed it, and I had to kind of learn that independence. But then my church in Coventry really helped as well. I found a community in church, made friends. Joe Davis, who was actually on the show a couple of weeks ago as well. He was my first friend in Coventry, and like I just like clung, I clung to friends, to people there. Going to, we used to call it Roots, which was like student midweek Bible study sort of thing. Going to that, really loved that. Student services, church, getting involved, teaching in Sunday school, and I kind of found that solace, that safe space in church of like-minded people, finding more about who Jesus was as well for me, not just living through my parents' faith, because again I was still quite new into Christianity when I got to uni and stuff. And I think I definitely had experienced a lot of Christianity being mixed into culture. So I wasn't always sure, is this cultural, is this biblical and stuff, and I had to kind of untangle that a little bit. So like I'd say something. So for example, my church back in London, every time it's offering time, the saying is offering time is blessing time and blessing time is offering time. Like you just roll it off your tongue. And I thought that's what everyone said. So like offering tongue, and I was like, blessing tongue. No, no one else is saying blessing tongue.
What are you on about?
Yeah. So then I was like telling people, and they're like, not too sure about that. Like that is that's not a phrase that we've said before and stuff. Like, so untwining different things, and then again, it really big growing up, which I do believe is true. Children honor your parents, but I think sometimes it felt like honoring your parents was made to feel like that means you must do everything they say without question, which I didn't necessarily agree with. I thought it was good to have questions and have conversations and discussions and stuff, but you could be seen as disrespectful doing that. But then again, something that someone pointed out to me as the next verse is parents do not enrage your children. And so I was like, oh,
Absolutely, yeah.
great. So like there's like two
That's the thing
sides
that
to
gets
that.
missed out, isn't it? Yeah.
There's two sides to it as well.
Yeah.
So starting to untangle what is the cultural understanding, what's the biblical understanding. I really found it awkward praying in front of people as well when I first got into church. I just found it really awkward because I didn't feel like I had the words to say. And again, I come from a family of amazing prayer warriors. They can pray for 4 hours. They're calling for the holy fire to come down. They're shaking. They're like really, really going for it. I don't pray like that. So I thought that's what I had to pray like. So when it came to time for me to pray, I was like, no, I can't do that. So, it took a long time to learn for me how to pray, how to feel comfortable speaking in front of people, unpicking that as well, having that small group. And it was very much focused on students getting together, learning that, even though we don't know how long we might be in Coventry for, I think what I really love that they've drummed into is even if you don't know how long you're going to be in a place for, still get plugged in because that's where God's called you to at the moment. Even if you're only there for a couple of months, you can still contribute to the kingdom of God. So I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here for, so I'm just going to throw myself in, even if I'm just here for my 4 years and then go. And we had loads of people that would come do their degrees and then go back home, but then they'd been equipped to take what they've learned back. Like, there really was a church about sending people out as well, and not just like you must stay here. Like, they really freely sent people out and stuff. So I absolutely loved the church. I honestly thought I was never going to leave Coventry Elam. I was like, I found my church. This is where I'm going to be forever. But then the Lord was like, nope, picking you up and you're going to Birmingham. And I really thought that at first. I was like, no, I found my church. This is home. I'm gonna get married here. My kids are gonna go to Sunday school here. I'm gonna die here. Everything's here. I'm gonna live here. I knew where in Coventry I wanted to live. I was like, gonna live in Charlesmore by the Daventry Asda. It's great. I'm gonna live in this area. And I had like this really clear plan. I was just gonna be me, Joe, and Becky. We're gonna be here forever. And we've all left now. That church, we've all been moved on for different reasons. And I really fought with God with that. But it was the right thing to do to move to Birmingham. So after my undergrad and being in Coventry for a year or so, I did a lot of TAing. So I was like a teaching assistant. I was an agency teaching assistant. So I was in different schools. I also was part-time at Royal Leamington Spa College doing TA work and stuff. But again, I wanted to progress. I wanted to get into that therapy space and stuff, but it was just really hard to get into. And then I saw the job that I'm in now, so becoming an education mental health practitioner, which is all about kind of bringing that mental health support to the young people by doing it in school. So working with children and young people with mild to moderate symptoms of anxiety and low mood by doing short-term interventions, that's like 6 to 8 week, using cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy is all about how your thoughts interact with how you feel, which interacts with the behaviors you do, and how you can find yourself kind of in unhelpful cycles. So learning to recognize those thoughts, to challenge the unhelpful thoughts and change behaviors, like if you're avoiding things, to more helpful patterns, to change the cycle to be more positive. So it's very much about kind of giving you practical skills to do it. And it's a model of therapy that I've really connected with, and I really do see it throughout the Bible. I love when things that God has said and dictated to us and shown and spoke to us is then backed up in research that's done secularly as well. Like it's amazing when you see that and they see the evidence base. Like it's got one of the strongest evidence bases behind cognitive behavioral therapy, and it really does link into biblical principles. So when God says that we should take captive our thoughts and make them obedient to the will of God, that is essentially thought challenging, which is what I do with young people. I help them to recognize the thoughts they're having, the unhelpful thoughts, grouping them into different things. So we call them ants, automatic negative thoughts, and then the groups that the ants fall into are called thinking traps. So it's like the unhelpful patterns. So you've got things like catastrophizing, so expecting the worst thing to happen, comparing despair, comparing yourself to other people, and then feeling bad about yourself. So, oh, they're so good at English, for example, and I'm so bad at it. Black and white thinking, like thinking everything's like awful, great. Mind reading, that's a really popular category that I work with people with. So that's when you assume that you know what people are thinking about you, and it's usually not positive. So like you're like mind reading, predicting as well. So predicting that you know how things are going to happen in the future. So I've had a bad day today, so tomorrow has to be a bad day as well. Emotional reasoning. So that's kind of turning your feelings into facts. And what I try and like communicate with the young people I work with is that your feelings are valid. Like it's okay to have feelings, but our feelings are fallible. So just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true, or doesn't mean like it has to be that way. So you don't have to hold on to that feeling to then like it's okay to recognize it and okay, I'm feeling sad, but I then don't have to stay in that. I'm just going to be sad for the rest of the day stuff. So all these different things, again, you see all through the Bible, and then changing the behaviors you're doing so that things are more helpful. So challenging those thoughts, taking care of yourself. Like, when God says to Elijah, you need to eat and you need to sleep, things to do to take care of your body to help your mental health when he's so despaired after Jezebel's doing her nonsense and threatening him. Well, it's like you need to take care of your physical self. You need to take care of that to help your mental health. Job taking solace with his friends, that connection, that social connection, it's shown that when you have that social support around you, it improves your mental health, having people around you. And, what I also find really interesting about that story and what it shows is that you don't necessarily have to come with the solutions, just kind of being there. And that's what I say to a lot of parents, because I also work with parents to help them support their children, like, validating how they're feeling, being that safe space. Because while Joe's friends weren't talking, they were great. It's when they started talking and started saying, you should do that, you should do that, you should do that. That's when the difficulties came and stuff. So like all these different things.
Trait, isn't it? So sort of that's what I mentioned.
That fixing as well. And I think that's what we can try and do. We can try and fix, and because it is difficult, so again, particularly when I'm working with parents to support their children. So I've just finished off treatment with one mum I've been working with her to support her son who's been really anxious about school, really anxious about just kind of doing anything, because he worries that if he can't do it perfectly, then he shouldn't do it. So he just kind of freezes and does nothing. And again, that can be a really thing, that perfectionism. If I can't do it perfect, it's not good enough. So I'm not good enough. So I'm just going to do nothing and things. And a lot of what I talked about with her is that, there are going to be times when he's going to be upset, but that's part of life. He's not a robot. There's going to be times when he's going to be really upset. There's going to be times where you're going to be encouraging him to do things that he doesn't want to do because he feels anxious and he's not going to want to do it. But by him avoiding it, it's going to make the anxiety grow. It makes it worse. So it's about taking small steps. And again, a big part is like breaking it down. So we call it like an exposure hierarchy.
Exposure therapy.
Yes, exposure therapy. That's part of that's a cognitive behavioral therapy intervention. So taking the really big thing you're scared of and breaking it down into manageable steps so that you can get there. Because if you throw someone into a really big situation like they're scared of, they're gonna freeze. They're not gonna be able to handle it. It's not gonna be helpful. So when people are like, I'm just gonna push them into the swimming pool so they learn how to swim. Don't do that. That is not helpful. You need to build it up, like get them to float for a little bit, get the paddles out, support them for a bit so they can learn, actually, I can cope this strange feeling of being in water, and then like let go for a little bit, catch them again. So like breaking it down into little steps. And that's what we've been working on, to break down tasks where he, for his bedtime routine previously.
Do you find it's like you're actually training a parent, not a child?
Yes, yeah.
It parents quite often, I think there's a temptation to try and jump in to try and rescue your child. And it's like, actually, you need to let them fail.
Yeah.
You
Need to let them
kind of
have those experiences to learn that actually I can cope. And even if it doesn't go how I thought it was going to go, I'm still okay. And that's the main thing. So particularly with children 12 and under, there's a lot of strong evidence for working with the parent to help them, because sometimes as parents, we can do things to unintentionally keep the anxiety going. So we can think, okay, I'm going to reassure them. It's okay, you're fine, you're great, you're amazing. But then when you keep going, I'm okay, you're okay, the child goes, okay, mum keeps saying I'm okay, maybe I'm not okay. Is there something I should be
It's
worried
really
about?
smart, you know, they figure things out. Yeah.
They pick up on those subtle changes, like even like changes in your body language or your how you're being, like if you're being more tense, the child will pick up on that and go, oh,
absolutely.
okay, so I noticed mum and dad are getting more tense. Maybe there's something I need to be tense about. Is there any danger here? Maybe I'm not okay. And then that makes their anxiety grow. And then you can see them getting more anxious, and then you get more anxious. And you both kind of feed into each other. So again, a lot of it is teaching parents to kind of manage their own anxiety and stuff. And again, the questions they ask, asking more open-ended questions, asking someone, why are you worried? That's quite an antagonizing question. That's quite a,
What would you say instead?
what's making you feel worried? What's the worst thing that could happen? What do you think can happen with this? You know, how is your body feeling right now? So then getting them to notice those physical changes, to linking that to their emotional state as well. So they're noticing that you've got a funny feeling in your tummy. That's often what kids say, like, my tummy feels funny.
Right.
And oh, I noticed that sometimes when I feel worried, my tummy feels funny. Do you think you might be feeling worried? So then they start connecting. Oh, when my body feels like this, maybe I'm feeling like this. So then they can kind of have those skills. But I feel like why can sometimes really put people off, because I don't know why. I don't know why. And it feels kind of like accusatory, like, why have you done this? But what's making you feel worried? What's the worst thing that can happen? Helping to see the expectations as well can be more helpful as questions and stuff. And then again, bringing back examples of when they've been in a similar situation, or another time they felt worried and how they overcame that. So I remember that a couple of weeks ago you were quite worried at football and your team didn't win, and that was really sad. But then afterwards you said that you were really proud of yourself. So like, again, helping them to make those connections and know that actually I'm okay because I have the skills to do things, rather than I'm okay because my mum and dad have told me that I'm okay and they're there for me. Because
it's building the internal structures as opposed to external validation.
Definitely as well.
And that, like you say, talking about, oh, my team lost or whatever. It's all sort of based on a externality. Something you might have some control over, but it's kind of like something you can't control. There's a lot of things in the world that you can't control, and you have to build the internal consistency to be able to deal with that. And to be able to say, I'm okay with this. I can cope with this. I can get through this. Right.
I can tolerate the difficult emotions.
But if you're always if your happiness, if your mental well-being is always based on things going okay and things going right, you're going to have a very hard time, in life, I think.
Yeah. And again, I think that also then feeds back into those biblical principles about the peace that God, Jesus says, I give you peace. Peace not like the world gives you, peace that surpasses understanding as well. Like, looking at situations, I shouldn't have peace about this. I shouldn't, feel like okay about it. Like, you're in a really difficult situation, but definitely have experienced that peace from God.
Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big your God is, right?
Exactly as well. And I think what I love reading the Bible and reading the Psalms and seeing the stories of the prophets, it's just how real they were with their emotions. I think as someone who has struggled with their mental health and, you know, had to have therapeutic support and I'm on medication and stuff, which generally really helps. And I really went back and forth with God about, again, medication and stuff before I got on it. I was like, I don't really know about this, Lord. Like, I just kind of want you to heal me like that, you know. And I believe He does. I genuinely believe God heals people, and they don't struggle in this way anymore. But something I felt God say to me really, really clearly was, don't snob how I choose to heal you. And I was like, oh, that is a good point. You have created all these resources around us to be able to cope. Is it less of a healing from you if medication's involved? I don't believe it is, because you've created that medication, you've created those resources, you've created therapy, that support out there for us to access. And if we don't utilize it, then that's doing us a disservice.
Yeah, I think it's fine balance, isn't there? There's sort of like there's the element of you know, if I've got a headache, I'll take paracetamol. You know, do you know what I mean? We're made up of biological processes, you know, the way our bodies work. And then there's like, I think there's a balance, isn't there? Trying to find that balance of like, well, what point is, you know, and quite often where medicine, I think you still have to rely on God where medicine fails, where medicine just doesn't exist for your condition, you know. I think that's where you see miracles happen, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think with all the creations of medication and therapeutic resources out there and stuff, that is a way that God has given that support. And I've not just relied on that medication and that support. My faith has also played a massive part in supporting me with my mental health as well, because the medication definitely helps and the therapies help. Has given me that more resources to kind of cope and be able to navigate and manage my own emotions and my own distress. But what therapy can't do is give me that connection with God, stuff that, like that relation, that actual relational part with God. That's where that comes into it, that time with Him where I can cry out to Him. I can cry out the difficulties that I'm experiencing. I can sit with Him in the pain, in the misery, and know that He's there with me. And then He can restore my hope. He can put together my heart when it feels brokenhearted. That's only something that I found that God can do, like that layer of support, if that makes sense.
It's spiritual.
So,
Yeah. I mean, you can mend the broken arm, you
Mm.
know, but there are other scars that run deep, especially like psychological scars, you know. And yes, medication can help perhaps quiet those racing thoughts maybe and deal with certain things. But yeah, if there's a core problem, core spiritual problem caused by trauma or, you know,
Mental health is so complicated. It's
yeah,
so many different elements entangled into this big ball that we're trying to figure out. And there are parts of mental health that are beautiful, like, experiencing those really, don't like to say positive and negative emotions, because an emotion isn't in itself positive or negative. It just is. The emotions that are easier to handle, like feeling happy, feeling joy, feeling peace, and the emotions that are more difficult to handle, like feeling angry or sad or worried. But an emotion isn't in itself bad or good. It just is. And I think trying to get back to that,
absolutely.
get away from that language and stuff. So there's elements of mental health that are really beautiful, like, those connections with people when you experience those more easier to handle feelings. That's really great as well. When you can appreciate things around you, gratitude, being able to appreciate what's around you and things, that's really great and stuff. Being able to connect to people, connect with nature, that's fantastic. Feeling like you're taking care of yourself, feeling content in yourself, that's a really beautiful part of mental health. But then we've got the mental health difficulties, like feeling low, feeling depressed, struggling with anger, trauma, stress, like more difficult human experiences to um to handle. And I think sometimes people get confused thinking that if I'm feeling sad, that must mean that I've got a mental health condition. well, no, you're a person. We all have different emotions. We can feel happy, we can feel sad. It's normal to have a range of different emotions. It becomes a problem if it's then stopping you from doing things. So like if I'm feeling so sad, I'm feeling so anxious, I'm no longer able to go to work, I'm no longer able to go to school. That's when we'd say you're having mental health difficulty, mental health problem, and that's when that support is needed to help you get back to being able to function. And I find at my points when I've been in crisis, so I have experienced mental health crises. I've luckily never have had to be hospitalized, but I've had to take time off work. I've had to, like during the pandemic, that was a really difficult time for me. I hit rock bottom. I had to stay with some of my cousins, and again, I think that's where that collectivism came in really handy, because I was like, actually, I don't know if I can keep myself safe right now. I need people around me. I wasn't eating properly because I just felt so low. I was just lying in bed and crying. Hadn't washed my hair in ages. The personal care, I was really struggling with that. My mind felt like it was on fire. I don't think I've ever felt that low and hopeless before, and I just needed people to come around me. So my cousins took me in, and again, it was all very complicated because of like the lockdowns and stuff, but I was able to be with family because I was a risk to myself at that point. So I was like, I have to be with people, but it was too risky for me to be with my parents because they were again approaching 70 and very, very vulnerable. So again, it was that tension of I need to be with someone, but I can't be with my parents and stuff. And I think it was really good for me being with my cousins, and they took me in. They helped me with the physical side of it, so getting me eating again. They washed my hair for me. They did my laundry for me. They encouraged me to go for a walk. At first, I could only manage like a 5-minute walk, just going out and back and stuff. But again, they really encouraged that and stuff, and getting the physical side of things sorted. And then I was also seeing a counselor at that point as well. So talking through the emotional stuff. But then really what helped. So those things were both very helpful, and so on my medication, speaking with my GP about medication and stuff to kind of sort all that stuff out. But that time with God, which my cousins really encouraged me to keep doing as well, that really helped. I was not in the headspace to be reading the Bible. I couldn't process things, but I was listening to worship music a lot, and God was speaking to me through the worship music. So there was a song called Man of Your Word by Maverick City. And again, it talks about how God is a man of his word. So like it says, if you said it, we believe it. You're a man of your word. I am who you say I am. And I was speaking those things of me. I listened to that song as well. Who you say I am. Who does God say I am? Right now, I feel like I'm useless. I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I'm hopeless. I was having really dark thoughts about not wanting to be alive anymore. It's like I've got nothing left to give, Lord. It was an awful headspace. But then the worship music was reminding me that I was a loved daughter of God, that God saw me in that time, that he had never left nor forsaken me, that he was bigger than everything. There's a song, I can't remember. Can't remember what the song's called right now, but like one of the lyrics is, and as you speak, all the universe catches your breath and stuff, and like, so will I. That was the song, and that was another song I listened to a lot, and God reminding me just how big he was. That song really blew my mind. Like the whole universe, like it hangs on every breath that you say. You are such a big God, and this feels like such a big, dark situation that I cannot see the way out of right now. But you are bigger than this. You are Lord of all. And then as my mood started increasing slowly through taking care of myself physically, spending time with my family. Again, we were watching The Chosen together as well. So seeing those stories of Jesus and how he interacted. It was actually the part I was like really, it was really, really in the beginning of The Chosen. So I think it was like it was the first season. So there was an episode where Jesus had reached out to Mary Magdalene, and she was struggling with being tormented by demons and really stuff. And I just, again, felt like he was like, I'm reaching out to you in this space. So all these other things, like it wasn't like at first it wasn't like me sitting down reading the Bible, but it was all these other things, worship music, Christian literature, watching sermons and stuff as well. My cousins also gave me a little prayer book that was specifically made in mind for people struggling with mental health and having specific prayers to say if you are feeling, for example, feeling like you don't want to be alive anymore, if you're feeling really low, feeling like you wanted to hurt yourself, feeling really anxious, feeling angry. And I still have those on my bedside table that I can look at and pray, and it had Bible verses on it as well to encourage. So all these different things. And as my mood started lifting up and the fog started clearing, I was then able to pick up the word and like listen to again the Psalms and stuff and see David cry out and other psalmists cry out in that hurt and in that pain. And there was always that but statement, but you, God, you are still here. You are still God. You are my refuge. You are my safe place. And I started again having that permission to say, Lord, I'm really struggling. I've never felt this low before. The pandemic was such an awful time for everyone. It was a scary time. It was terrifying. And I was also doing my training as well. So trying to navigate with trying to become qualified, and because of the pandemic, there were loads of issues, understandably, with me getting my hours and things. So I was like, I'm not going to qualify this year. I'm meant to be qualifying in 2 weeks, but I don't have all my hours. I have not done my assignments. I thought this is my career, Lord. I thought this is where you're calling me. What is going on? So I was just so confused, but then kept going to but God, you are a good God. You're a good father and you have good gifts for us. That's what I always remind myself of. And then that really helped me get through that time as well, and able to use the skills and stuff I learned in therapy and coming back to that time with God as well. And when I've had other wobbles and stuff, like I had to take time off work recently because again, I just wasn't in a very good headspace and felt really low and stuff. And then again, that worship music, starting off of that process. And I think sometimes we can feel like it can feel too big to pick up the Bible and pick up the word. And the word of God is amazing. And I'm not saying that you never need to read your Bible, but I'm saying that God meets you where you're at. So if the Bible feels too big for you at the moment, there is a lot of worship music out there that the Lord can still speak to you through.
Yeah.
That is still
Yeah.
such a beautiful way that God reaches people. There's a lot of Christian literature out there, like, the Bible Project do amazing videos and stuff. There's lots of ways to access the word of God, and you can start there and then work your way up. And I really love how God meets us where we're at. And again, we see that all through the Bible, the prophets and the psalmists, people struggling, people with different things. Like, when I'm reading like Jeremiah, for example, the weeping prophet, he was probably struggling a bit of depression, and I don't blame him if everyone wants to kill him, to be fair. No one was happy about what he had to say, but the Lord was still with him in that time. Like, I think it's taken me a while to realize, like, and I remind myself that even when things are difficult, even when I'm struggling, the Lord is still with me in that.
Yeah.
He's big enough to handle my emotions, be there with my emotions, and it's okay to feel, but it's what I do next that's important. It's okay for me to feel angry. It's okay for me to feel upset. It's okay for me to have a crisis. It's okay for me to have those moments. But what am I going to do next? I'm going to lean on the Lord, because that's the only way to get through it. And God doesn't want us to face it alone in that sense.
So if you could ban one cliche about mental health in TV dramas and movies, what would you scrap first, and what would you put in its place?
I think that culture of, suck up and put up, sort of just suck it up, take it on the chin, don't let anyone see how it is like that. Those are all really unhelpful statements.
Right.
I think it could be.
The hero is kind of just sort of comes out of it comes out of a disaster or something, and then he's just like
On to the next on to the next thing,
right.
Which is not realistic. I think I'd replace it with like, allow yourself to feel like that's not that's not a bad thing.
Mm.
So if you think about it, if you're feeling sad and you kind of let yourself feel sad, you can process that quicker. But if you're feeling sad, but then you're like, okay, I can't feel sad, so I'm going to push that down. Then you're contending with feeling sad and feeling shame about feeling sad and trying to push it down and trying to bottle it and bottle it and bottle it. And there's only so far you can push something down before it explodes. But if you deal with it, kind of like you said, let it wash over you, process it, and then move forward, that's a lot easier. So I say allow yourself to feel. You can allow yourself to feel, but you don't have to stay in that feeling. You can move forward from it.
If they taught mental health in schools, what's one lesson you would want on the syllabus?
So part of my job is teaching about mental health in schools. So
Yeah.
the mental health in schools team came about from a green paper in 2017 that the government put together, recognizing that there needed to be more early intervention mental health support in schools. It is so much easier to prevent issues than to treat issues.
Do all
as well.
schools have that now, or is it still?
So by 2029/2030, somehow mental health and sports teams are going to be in every single school.
Right.
Lord help us to do that. I think it's a great initiative. So by 2029 to 2030,
Yeah.
we are hoping to have mental health and schools teams in every school in the UK to give that support as well.
So what is the one thing that, if you got a school that doesn't have that right now, what is that one thing that you would sort of say if the teacher was able to teach something?
Yeah, I think talking about emotional regulation is really important. So recognizing the different emotions that we feel, how it affects us, but then also learning those techniques. So if I am feeling sad, I've recognized I'm feeling sad, what can I do to manage that emotion? What are the practical steps or self-care activities I can do to help me? I think that's really important. So I think a lot of the time we tell kids about different emotions and stuff. We tell them about, how do you feel? Well, like feeling sad, feeling happy. They can tell us about all the different emotions, but they don't know what to do with them. We need to take it that step further. So when I am experiencing this emotion, these are things that we can do to help. So what I've actually done quite a lot of this academic year is a course called All About Emotions that my team created specifically aimed for children in reception year 1 and year 2. So that's like children 4 to 8, so quite young, getting them to recognize these emotions, how they feel, and then again learning when I'm feeling this way, this is what I can do to help me feel better. And that's been really well received in the classes. I think things like that is really helpful to have, not just talking about this is feeling sad, this is why people might feel sad, but what can I do when I'm feeling sad to feel better, to regulate that and tolerate the emotions.
What's the misconception about mental health that you still find yourself correcting today?
I think particularly culturally, struggling with mental health can be like it can be related to if you struggle, you are a weak person. There's something wrong with you. Like you're just not cut out for this sort of life and stuff. And I think that's definitely something that when I've had wobbles or difficult things, I can then kind of internalize. So that must mean that I'm a bad person. I'm not good enough. I'm weak or weak if we struggle with this. But again, that's not true. And I have to remind myself and I remind my patients that that's not true. We all have ups and downs. We all experience highs and lows. We all experience different emotions. Feeling emotions doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you less than a person. And I think actually, as I've grown and as I've become in like a therapeutic space, I feel like my emotional intelligence and the fact that I do feel deeply really helps me to empathize with people. It helps me to deliver more effective therapy where children and young people and parents feel supported, they feel listened to, they don't feel judged. They feel like I'm empathizing with them, I'm normalizing the emotions, and that really helps us move forward in treatment sessions.
And that's so true about the early intervention. I mean, you see somebody starting to slip. And I mean, I suppose the key thing here is, you have to be part of that support network already, you know, to be able to, one, notice that that's happening, and also two, that they've sort of given you a bit of that permission to actually intervene. But I think it's so important because you can correct people and get people, if they're just having a bit of a wobble, you can get them back, you know, back to sort of a sort of a straight and narrow, can't you? Whereas, as you say, if it if it just keeps rising, then it's much harder to deal with when they're crawling up the walls.
And I think it's definitely like when you're reaching out to them, it doesn't have to be a I'm reaching out to you because I've seen that you're really sad and I've not seen you for a few
Yeah.
years. It can just be a hey friend, how you doing? Like
You want
just
to get
little
coffee.
little things and
Yeah.
stuff. Like it doesn't have to go into the nitty gritty, letting them know that you're available. Like I'm here if you want to
Yeah.
if you want to chat about
Yeah.
anything, but I just kind of want to hang out with you. And that can be really, really meaningful. I think particularly for men, as research shows, you guys don't do that enough. You need to be reaching out more to each other, having that support network around each other, like not being afraid to text that person you've not seen for a bit and stuff, like just like reaching out. You don't have to keep yourself to yourself. That's not healthy as well. So that's my challenge for the guys out there. Reach out to that mate that you've not
There's a-
seen for a bit.
There's a on that actually, just to lighten the mood as well. But there's a really funny meme online. So basically, when girlfriends or women wives getting their partner to ring up their male friends at night and just to say good night.
That sounds great.
And it's, yeah, you can kind of Google it, but it's very funny, and it's actually quite revealing, you know, because it's the reactions are quite funny because it's like, what? Why are you calling me? You know, what? Good night, you know, like, you know, but I think also, you know, there's some reactions that kind of show. I think it shows that we are, for some reason, we are very much, you know, don't talk about emotions, and I think there's a bit of a in that. It's probably because I think you learn that at school, and I think you learn that, you know, basically, unfortunately, there are, you know, I think at school, you know, if you was a boy, at least when I was growing up, you went and talked about emotions, you would be seen as weak and soft, and also be bullied, you know, and that could happen. I think that's where men just learn to kind of bottle up, because you've got to kind of have this appearance of being tough and being hard and not be someone to mess with.
It's really like really difficult
To
carry.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is a obviously as a Christian, my own experience, you know, and I think I speak for a lot of Christian men. I think it is easier to share emotions because it's part of the experience of being a Christian. It's being part of the community, and we learn to communicate.
Yeah.
But if you're not part of the Christian community, I think it could be quite lonely. And I think men in general, even Christian men, are lonely.
Yeah.
Because you can feel like, I mean, I can definitely feel sometimes the weight of the world is on me, because I'm just being responsible for so many decisions and for things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And I tell you something, I noticed it moving to rugby. I think there's a lot of people who are lonely, or at least I've been noticing and talking to people, and you just find people are very lonely.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it can have an impact on your mental health, can't it? I think I would encourage anybody, if they are, you know, facing that loneliness, they should, if you're part of the church, you definitely try and reach out to another male in the church who you've connected with, and have a conversation. And of course for women as well, I think a woman that you connected with in the church, try and talk to them, just, hey, can we go for coffee? Can we just talk? Just want to.
It can be hard to be vulnerable like that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Actually, I'd really appreciate that, but we all
Yeah.
need that
Yeah.
connection. So I definitely would echo that encouragement. And there's also services. So there's a specific service called Campaign Against Living Miserably, and it's
I love it.
specifically targeted for men, to kind of help with that. So that's a great charity. Then you've got Samaritans as well, another fantastic service that you can call or text at any, no, they're a call one, that you can call at any point if you need support as well. So there are services out there. You don't have to suffer in silence. I think sometimes the hardest thing to first of all say is I need help, but by saying that, you just open up so much support to you. So I definitely would recommend reaching out and connecting with people, even like challenging yourself to connect to people that you've maybe not seen for a bit, like maybe not talked to. Take that step to invite someone out for a coffee because they might be really desperately needing that support.
and they won't ask, right? You know, so it's just noticing somebody saying, hey, you know, you want to go for a coffee, just catch up, go for a beer, if it's, you know,
And I definitely think church has been really great and supportive at
yes,
that, like reaching out with people, connecting with other couples, connecting with older members of the church as well. The cross generations has been just really great, seeing different people and being encouraged in that way. So it's been great.
Definitely. Well, that's a good message for us to kind of almost come to the end on. But you know, looking back on all things, your mental health challenges, your faith journey, travel, marriage, all that kind of stuff. What single thing would you want to tell the young Annabelle, or someone like her?
When I was younger, I didn't think that I'd experience joy in my life. So one thing that depression does is it sucks your joy and your hope from you. You feel so hopeless. And my middle name is actually Joy. And I think the beginning of kind of God breaking into that darkness and helping me see the light. I was sat at church with my mum, and I was just kind of sat there. I used to be a bit of an emo kid, so they used to call me the Bleemo, the black emo. I was at school.
That's terrible.
Isn't it? I was into like My Chemical Romance, Green Day, all that stuff. Used to like comb my hair over. So I was like sat at church like that, like drugs church. Don't really want to be here. Didn't really know God for myself at that point, just there because my parents wanted me to be there. And my mum looked at me and she was like, you know, I called you Joy, but you always look so miserable. Okay, I want you to experience the joy of the Lord. That's why I called you Joy. The joy of the Lord is your strength. And there was something about that conversation where like kind of like the crack started being chipped away out of like that hardened heart I had. And then, you know, from that I met Jesus and experienced God for myself. Like 4 years after that point at that youth conference, and I'd gone there. I don't know why I'd gone there. I'd never wanted to go before. I think it was the last year I could go. I was 18. I was like, oh, I might as well. Like last year I could go. I never wanted to go. Me and my friend went. She was actually one of my bridesmaids, and we were like, oh, let's turn up and see what it is. And they're talking about how God can renew you. That's what the whole theme was about, like being renewed. And then I was just like, you know, I feel really miserable. I don't feel like life is great at the moment. I'm really struggling with things. Maybe I should try this Jesus. You know, my cousins, my mum, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, they say how amazing this Jesus is. Like, what? Two of my uncles were pastors as well. So, like, you know, my family are really big into church. Let me try this Jesus, and stuff. So, and then like my life just completely changed from that point. Like 10 years of being a Christian, and so much has changed, and I really have experienced that joy. So I think I'd tell young Annabelle that like the joy of the Lord is your strength, and there is joy to be found as well. And that joy is found in Jesus. And I probably would have looked at myself like, oh, what are you saying? Oh, what's that? But I really have experienced that from that point. And I think that's been the anthem of my life. Like I choose joy. I need to fight for my joy with struggling with like my mental health and stuff, but I choose joy, and that's where the enemy attacks my joy because he knows that there's power in that joy that the Lord gives, and that freedom that the Lord gives. So I will continue fighting for my joy because it is mine that the Lord has given me.
Well, final question that I ask every guest is: you rock up to the pearly gates of heaven, St. Peter's there, and he gives you a disposable camera. What are you taking a picture of first?
I lost my aunt that lived with us, lost her a couple of years ago, and she was such a formidable woman of God. She was amazing. She struggled with cancer for many years, and her faith, like even when it was dark, even when things were awful, she, I don't know how, the Lord just sustained her. And you call her to encourage her, but then you'd end up being encouraged from her on the conversation. So I would love, and I'd like, when I see her again, I would love to take a selfie with her. She, yeah, I miss her so much, but her faith gives me hope. And losing her was awful. She wasn't able to be at the wedding. That was really difficult, but I know that she's with God. That peace I have from that, and I can't wait to see her again and take that selfie with her and say, Auntie, and tell her about all the things I've done since since she's not been here. So yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Val, thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for sparing us an hour and 45 minutes of your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. It's great learning about you and having a discussion about important things like mental health. It's great. Well, thanks for joining us once again and listening to that podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed the content. And if you haven't already, subscribe, whichever platform you're listening on or watching from. And we'll catch you again for the next episode of Life Explored.